All right, so get ready, because today we are diving headfirst into a world most of us only dream about. Um, the lives of Dubai's, like, crazy rich kids. I mean, seriously, next level wealth.
The ultra-wealthy next gen.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what the craziest part is?
What's that?
Your source that los chicos de Dubai no son los típidos TXT? It's like reading a movie script sometimes, I swear.
It is pretty wild.
Waddle doesn't even cut it. But listen, we're not just here to gawk at their riches, you know?
Yeah, right.
We really want to, like, dig deeper, try to understand what makes this world tick.
Yeah, like what does it actually mean to grow up surrounded by that kind of wealth?
Yeah.
What's it like to have, like, basically endless resources?
Talk about pressure, too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the opportunities. I mean, it's a completely different reality.
Okay, so to really get into it, we're going to focus on a few people from your source. First up, Rashid Balassa. You might know him online as Money Kicks.
Ah, yes, money kicks.
This guy is fascinating.
What I find really interesting about him is that it's not just about spending money. He's got this passion, but it's on a scale that's just mind-blowing.
Oh, yeah, and speaking of mind-blowing, did you see this? The guy has his own private zoo.
It's incredible. Over 500 animals. Just incredible.
Over 500 animals. Lions named after, like, Versace, or orangutans named after Gucci. Are you serious?
It's like something out of a movie, isn't it?
It's insane. And think about the cost. I mean, to keep all those animals happy and healthy.
Well, experts estimate that a public zoo that size, we're talking upwards of $100 million. Easy. Just to build.
To build it.
Just to build it. And you've got the operating costs. You're looking at over $700,000 a year at least.
Whoa. Okay, so that's more than what most people make in their lifetime.
Easily. And for
Whoa.
him, it's like a drop in the bucket just to keep his zoo going.
Yeah.
It really makes you think.
It really puts things into perspective, that's for sure. And speaking of money, your source also mentions this guy, Marwan bin Mohammed Al Moam, who casually drops $8 million
On a yacht.
on a yacht at 23 years old.
23. I mean, it's easy to get caught up in those numbers, right?
Oh, for sure.
But it's important to remember these aren't just like trust fund kids, you know.
Right.
They're inheriting these massive, powerful family businesses. Like
Yeah.
Marwan's probably being groomed to run Mr. Properties.
Mr. Properties, that's the real estate giant, right?
Exactly. They're responsible for a huge chunk of Dubai's skyline. So yeah, he's got an $8 million yacht.
Right.
But it's more about the weight that comes with it, the responsibility of leading a company like that. These families, they're not just wealthy, they're woven into the fabric of Dubai itself.
Yeah, it's like they hold the keys to the kingdom.
In a way, yeah. But they also have to be careful not to, crash the whole kingdom.
Talk about pressure.
Right. And that pressure, I think, might be why we see so many of them venturing out, like not just managing the family fortune, but exploring other passions and interests.
Makes sense.
Like Rashid's father, for example. Saif Belhassa, his company, Saif Belhassa Holding. They're involved in everything. Construction, energy, hospitality, even education.
Wow. They have their hands in all the cookie jars.
Exactly.
But here's the thing, and this is what I find so interesting. It's not all about yachts and private zoos, right?
No, not entirely.
Your source makes it clear that for some of these people, it's not enough to just, like, manage the family business. Like, they're driven to do more,
I think that's a really important point. It's like they feel this need to forge their own path.
Yeah.
To make a name for themselves that goes beyond just, oh, you're the son of so-and-so. It's fascinating.
Totally. And a perfect example of that is Said bin Bouti Al Maktoum.
What about him?
Okay, so the guy has this insane luxury watch collection. We're talking serious timepieces here.
I bet.
But he's also super involved in Dubai's healthcare system.
Really?
Yeah, like deeply involved.
Uh-huh. You don't often see that kind of contrast.
Right. It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It does. Like, what's the motivation there?
Is it because he's got all this wealth that he feels a sense of responsibility?
Possibly.
Okay.
Or maybe it gives him a different perspective on things. Access to opportunities that most people wouldn't even dream of.
It's like he's living in two completely different worlds.
And maybe that's what allows him to have a real impact.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
Then you've got someone like Hamdan bin Rashid Al Maktoum, completely different story. Dropped out of Harvard.
No kidding.
Yeah, but guess what? By 18, he'd already built his own multi-million-dollar investment firm.
Wow. Okay, now that's impressive.
Talk about ambition.
Seriously. And, that entrepreneurial spirit, it's something we see a lot with these individuals. This drive to create something of their own.
It's like, is it genuine passion or is it the pressure of living up to the family name?
Right, because those family legacies are huge. Generations of success.
Exactly. Or maybe it's a bit of both. Like they want to prove themselves, but also step out of that shadow, you know?
I can see that. Show the world they're capable of achieving things on their own terms.
Totally. And speaking of different approaches, your source highlights this really interesting contrast with the ultra wealthy in Qatar.
Oh, how so?
Well, specifically, it talks about the Al Thani family. Apparently, their whole vibe, how they handle their wealth, is a little different.
That's interesting. Why do you think that is?
Well, the source points out that a big part of it might be, well, where their wealth comes from.
Ah, the source of the wealth. Makes sense.
Like Dubai's got this more diversified economy, right? But
Yeah.
Qatar, their wealth is basically all about natural gas.
Oh, so it's much more concentrated.
Exactly. And that gives the Al Thani family a different kind of influence, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's a different dynamic.
Right. It's like they're not just managing companies, they're basically shaping the whole country's economic strategy.
Exactly. And that's a huge responsibility. I mean, think
Yeah.
about it. They've got the power to influence things on a national and even global scale.
It's a whole other ballgame. And speaking of influence, your source talks about Altan Al Thani.
Oh, yeah, he's fascinating.
Started out in investment banking and worked his way up to leading Qatar's sovereign wealth fund.
Which, by the way, is a pretty big deal.
It's massive. It's like he's managing the entire country's savings account, right?
Pretty much. And we're not talking about a small piggy bank here.
Yeah.
This is a massive tool of wealth.
And then you've got his relative, Manal Al Thani. She's focused on a different kind of influence, promoting Qatari culture and healthcare.
She's a big player in the museum world, holds some pretty important positions there, and she's involved with a number of hospital foundations.
It seems like they're really trying to shape how the world sees Qatar, you know?
It's like they're crafting a legacy that goes beyond just wealth. They're using it to make a statement about who they are as a nation.
It's fascinating. And speaking of legacies, remember when we were talking about those mini electric cars?
The ones Princess Aya bin Faisal bin Sultan Al Nahyan had as a kid.
Yeah. Can you imagine that? Most kids are playing with Hot Wheels, and she's got a miniature Lamborghini.
I know, right? It's like
Oh.
something out of a dream. But it also shows you how different their world is, even from a young age.
Seriously. It
Yeah.
makes you wonder what kind of long-term impact that kind of upbringing has, you know?
Absolutely. On the one hand, they've got access to opportunities most people couldn't even imagine.
Yeah.
But on the other, I'm sure it comes with its own set of pressures and challenges.
It's like walking a tightrope between privilege and responsibility. And that actually brings us back to something your source mentioned.
What's that?
Remember, at the end, it asks, what else can you do besides feeling a bit envious?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It's like a challenge, you know? Instead of just being envious, maybe we can use these stories as a way to think about our own lives.
Right, like what are our own values? What does success really mean to us?
Exactly. We might not have billions of dollars, but we can still decide what kind of impact we want to have on the world.
Well said. It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? Exploring this world of extreme wealth and privilege.
It has, and it really makes you think. So, to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a fascinating conversation. Until next time.